The air in Lab Module 7 was thick with the nervous energy of impending judgment. Holographic displays shimmered with complex equations, exotic components hummed on workbenches, and students, human and alien alike, put the finishing touches on projects designed to impress, innovate, and hopefully earn them top marks in advanced applied metaphysics. Cale Jensen, a human student whose messy brown hair perpetually defied gravity, a condition potentially exacerbated by years of proximity to experimental energy fields, meticulously polished the containment field emitter at the heart of their project. Beside him, his partner, Zorp, a Xylosian exchange student whose crystalline structure pulsed with soft, internal light, was recalibrating the project's resonant energy core with the delicate precision only a multi-limbed being could achieve. Their project, ambitiously titled Temporal Echo Anomaly Containment Simulation, was designed to model and contain localized space-time fluctuations, a complex piece of theoretical engineering made tangible. It involved generating a microsingularity, perfectly safe, according to the schematics, stabilizing it with resonant energy fields, and then observing its interaction with simulated temporal anomalies. It was cutting-edge, slightly dangerous, and if it worked, guaranteed them a top grade. Resonance levels are stable, Cale, Zorp stated, its modulated voice a low, pleasing chime. Its internal lights shifted to a soft, contented green. Containment field emitter response is within parameters. We should be ready for the initial activation sequence. Cale double-checked the power couplings. All right. Fingers crossed the microsingularity generator doesn't decide to become a macrosingularity generator today. The probability of catastrophic existential cascade is calculated at 0.0001%. Zorp chimed reassuringly. Well within acceptable academic risk parameters. Acceptable academic risk parameters. Cale sighed. Only Zorp could make potential reality collapse sound like a minor rounding error. The science fair judging was in 2 cycles. The pressure was on. They needed a successful demonstration. Activating sequence, Cale announced, flipping the main power switch. Lights on their project console flared. The containment field emitter began to hum, its polished surface shimmering as it powered up. Zorp monitored the resonant energy core, its crystalline form vibrating slightly. The microsingularity generator whined, a sound that set Cale's teeth on edge. On the central display, a tiny, inky black spot appeared that contained microsingularity, a controlled point of infinite density. So far, so good. Zorp initiated the simulated temporal anomaly, a complex energy waveform designed to interact with the singularity. Instead of the expected data readouts and energy fluctuations, something else happened. The microsingularity generator emitted a high-pitched shriek, far above its normal operating frequency. The contained black spot on the display didn't just interact with the waveform, it reacted. It pulsed, it stretched, it began to flicker. Viscosity readings are spiking, Zorp exclaimed, its internal lights flashing a frantic, strobing yellow. The singularity is exhibiting non-standard behavior. The containment field emitter, moments ago shimmering calmly, began to crackle with uncontrolled energy. Plasma arcs sputtered outwards, striking the workbench. Alarms blared, not the main Academy alarms, thankfully, but the localized safety alerts for Lab Module 7. And the energy, it wasn't just contained within the field anymore. It moved. A shimmering, unstable waveform, crackling with raw energy, detached itself from the project and began to expand, filling the center of the lab module. It wasn't just energy. There was a pattern to its movement, a non-random sequence of fluctuations that hinted at something organized, something aware. Cale, it's responding to our commands. Zorp realized, tapping frantically on the console. They had been adjusting the resonant field to try and stabilize the singularity, and the rogue energy form was shifting its shape and intensity in tandem with their inputs. The project had achieved sentience. Briefly, unstably, and now it was a chaotic, expanding ball of crackling energy in the middle of the lab. Other students nearby, startled by the alarms and the plasma arcs, were backing away, grabbing fire extinguishers that were utterly useless against contained energy beings. The instructor, a weary alien with too many eyes, was fumbling with the module's emergency power cutoff, muttering, "Not again. 3rd time this cycle." Kale and Zorp knew the standard cutoff wouldn't work. This entity wasn't just an energy surge. It was a system, however brief its existence, that had bypassed their safety protocols and was now feeding on ambient energy in the lab. The resonant frequency, Kale shouted over the din. It's tied to the energy core's resonance. We need to find the opposite frequency, disrupt its pattern, calculating inverse harmonic sequence. Zorp responded, its crystalline fingers flying across the console. The rogue energy form pulsed aggressively as they worked, seeming to react to their attempts to understand it. It felt like a terrified animal lashing out. Plasma arcs intensified, singeing Kale's eyebrows despite his safety goggles. A nearby holographic display flickered and died as the energy being surged past it. Inverse harmonic sequence calculated. Zorp chimed, its lights a desperate, urgent red. Inputting into the resonant energy core. Kale slammed his hand down on the input control. The resonant energy core whined again, but this time the sound was different, a low, guttural growl. A beam of counter-frequency resonance shot out from the core, directly into the shimmering energy being. The being recoiled. The crackling intensified for a moment, then began to dissipate. The shimmering form flickered violently, shrinking back in on itself. It emitted a final, high-pitched frequency that wasn't language, but which Kale felt deep in his bones as regret, confusion, a fleeting spark of consciousness extinguishing itself. In seconds, it was gone. The energy dissipated, the crackling ceased, and the only evidence was the lingering smell of ozone, a few smoking scorch marks on the workbench, and the frantic blinking of the localized alarms, which now, with the energy anomaly gone, seemed unnecessarily loud. The other students slowly lowered their fire extinguishers, staring at the empty space where the energy being had been. The instructor finally managed to hit the emergency cutoff for their workbench power, plunging their section of the lab into silence, too late to have made a difference. Kale and Zorp stood panting, staring at their project. The micro-singularity generator was offline, its core components fried. The containment field emitter was functional but scarred. And the center of their project, the space where the energy being had originated, was empty. The spark of brief sentience had consumed its own source. Zorp's internal lights returned to a soft, steady green. Anomaly contained, it stated, its voice quieter than usual. Duration, 47.3 seconds. Kale ran a shaky hand through his already chaotic hair. 47.3 seconds of accidental, sentient energy that almost blew up the lab. The localized alarms eventually silenced themselves, or perhaps campus security finally noticed and remotely reset them. A security drone hovered at the lab entrance for a moment, scanned the area, logged minor energy fluctuation, source resolved, and flew away. When the judges finally made it to their station 2 cycles later, they found a workbench with scorch marks, a non-functional micro-singularity generator, and a rather complex explanation from Kale and Zorp about unforeseen variables in micro-singularity behavior under resonant field stress. They presented their data logs, carefully edited to remove the part about the project achieving sentience, and their calculations for the inverse harmonic sequence that had dissipated the anomaly. They didn't get top marks. They didn't fail either. Their project log was likely flagged with a note about excessive energy output during testing, and the security incident report simply mentioned a localized energy fluctuation in Lab Module 7, source unclear, resolved. A footnote. A minor incident in the Academy's security logs. A slightly singed workbench in Lab 7. An incomplete project submission. But Kale and Zorp knew the truth. They had, for 47.3 seconds, brought a spark of artificial life into being. They had faced an unforeseen, unpredictable entity born of their own work and managed to contain it using their knowledge and quick thinking. It wasn't the A+ they'd hoped for, or the smooth demonstration they'd planned, but it was a hell of a story buried deep in the footnotes of their academic record and the Academy's security logs, known only to the 2 students who had accidentally created and then contained a briefly sentient energy anomaly.